On this episode of Beyond the Stats, NBA players have concerns about returning. The MLB is still trying to reach an agreement. College football passed the practice schedule, and Magic Johnson gets his own documentary. But first, a head coach agrees to take a knee in the NFL.
This is Beyond the Stats with Zach and Tanner.
So, Zach, head coach Bill O'Brien for the Houston Texans has made a statement that says that he will kneel for the national anthem during the 2020 season. We saw last week where Roger Goodell put out his statement about how not only is the NFL in support with everything that's been going on, but also admits that they were wrong back in the 2016 time. So we see, again, head coach Bill O'Brien, who agrees to take a knee for the Texans. When you hear this, and kind of as we've seen players who have vocally said that they will take a knee during the 2020 season, what are your thoughts about Coach O'Brien agreeing to take a knee?
I just want to start with saying he's doing what I believe is the right thing. And I'm glad he's taking a knee. I think he's doing what should be done. What does that mean for him as the Texans head coach and general manager going forward? I'm not sure, because it could end up being a number of things. He could get some backlash and lose his job, which I kind of doubt based on where the climate of the U.S. is going. But yeah, I mean, he's going to face backlash somehow, some way, just because of what he's doing. It's polarized. It's considered political. Whether it should be or not is another question, but it is political, at least in some ways. And it's pretty big being the first coach. Like, it's really huge that he's the first non-player doing something like this. And I'm curious if other coaches will join. Adrian Peterson talked about almost all players. We talked about that last week, but Adrian Peterson saying almost all players are going to be kneeling at some point this coming season. So it'll be interesting to see if Bill O'Brien talking about coaches or himself kneeling will lead to other coaches kneeling as well. And I'm curious kind of how that dynamic plays out this season.
It also talked about, and this kind of reminds me from we talked about a month or so ago when Jim Harbaugh, for Michigan's head coach, was defending players trying to get away for players to be able to go to the NFL draft whenever they need to. It kind of reminds me of that in terms of a coach sticking up for his players for what he agrees with. So no, I definitely agree with you on that part. It also said that O'Brien actually led an emotional discussion with his players through everything that it's been going through. And Texan safety Michael Thomas actually even said that it was a positive experience having this conversation, and even that it was so encouraging to see Bill O'Brien with this. So obviously other players seem to really be happy with what Coach O'Brien is doing.
I want to point out a thing. So this makes, the way that the Texans have been really vocal about the death of George Floyd, considering George Floyd is a Houston native and they're the Houston Texans. Himself, Bill O'Brien, Watt, team chairman Cal McNair and his wife, as well as Tim Kelly and defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, all attended the funeral. They've done a series called Conversations for Change, where they talk with former Black players and coaches about their experiences. So this seems to be in line with where the Texans' stance is at this current moment, and I'm curious if that's going to continue going forward.
And Zach, it'll be interesting once the NFL comes around here in the next couple of months to see what head coach Bill O'Brien does and how other NFL coaches and players respond to this. So it'll be interesting to see, but also looking forward to the upcoming NFL season. Coming up, the NBA set to return in July, but a few NBA players have concerns about returning. Once again, I'm Tanner Camp alongside Zachariah Begley, and this is Beyond the Stats.
Back here on Beyond the Stats, Zachariah Begley alongside the great Tanner Camp. Tanner, we're talking about what's going on with the NBA and reservations that could be coming from the players' side. So to set a lay of the land, the NBA PA voted 28-0 back when the proposal was first made to them for their start of the Orlando season. That's expected to start earlier this week. Kyrie Irving, one of the NBA PA's vice presidents, along with Garrett Temple, CJ McCollum, and there's another one. Give me 1 second. Malcolm Brogdon, and then union president is Chris Paul. So, so Kyrie Irving held a call. 200 or so players were on that call, and they're just talking about the NBA season and what's going on in the U.S. socially and things like that, and kind of what all of that means going forward. So, Tanner, what are your thoughts on what Kyrie Irving's saying and what's going on kind of right now with the players?
Well, Zach, you're right about that in terms of for what's going on. In fact, there are a number who are actually unhappy with the idea. I mean, you've got a couple who are looking forward to coming back, but Kyrie has been the driving force. He's been organizing calls, as you said, and he's voicing a concern. He is just very worried about, based on where the country is at right now in its state, that he is not sure that restarting at least so soon or even at all is the right idea for it. And we've seen multiple players back him up with that. Two names that come to mind are Jared Dudley and Kyle Kuzma. So essentially, he's just concerned about, based on where the state of everything is at right now for the country, it might not be the best idea to have the NBA season, or at least, again, as of right now, it's expected to be in late July, either on July 30th or 31st. But Kyrie's concern is that he does just not think, based on where everything is at right now, that it's a good idea to have the NBA come back here within the next month.
Right. I mean, there is words going around that Kyrie is willing to give up everything he has for social reform. So similar to something people would think like what Colin Kaepernick did, kneeling and then not being able to go back into the NFL after the end of that season. So there's players talking about possibly sitting out the restart. They believe that the NFL. Yeah, Tanner, we'll have to keep a close eye on this one. I mean, we're a month and a half away from the restart of the NBA season, so a lot could change in that month and a half. Obviously, we'll keep all of you that are either listening or watching informed. When we come back, we'll be talking about the MLB and the lack of a deal still for the third week in a row here on Beyond the Stats.
Back here on Beyond the Stats, my name's Tanner Camp, and along, as always, the only Mr. Zachariah Begley himself. So, Zach, MLB, no surprise we're talking about it. Week number 3, who knows how long it's going to go on for. But we've seen 3 deals, or at least 2 deals, and both were rejected. So to look back, the players rejected the 76-game proposal. Then later on in that week, there was the 89-game proposal that the players put out, but that was rejected as well. And recently, the MLB, they proposed a 72-game season with 80% prorated player salary. Zach, I mean, we've seen this throughout the last couple of weeks, and we've talked about, again, as I said, week number 3 here. So kind of just give us some of your own details, or tell us a little bit more about basically what's going on, or what the current state of the MLB is right now.
Yeah. Well, we're in the 11th hour of MLB happening. So from what I understand, it's 80% prorated salaries if the postseason happens, then 70% if it doesn't happen. And obviously 72 games. It would start July 14th. So like a month starting tomorrow. If you're watching this on June 13th when it comes out, it would start 1 month from June 14th. So July 14th. So 32 days from now or so. Yeah, which is, I think, insane that they expect a month turnaround. Um, so it's yeah. So they would receive 50 games at full prorated play, and then the other 22 would be at the 80%. Or and then it would run from July 14th to September 27th, and then it would be the playoffs until the end of October. So like a lot of the other ones. Um, yeah. So earlier this week, just a couple thoughts. Earlier this week, Rob Manfred, commissioner of baseball, said 100% happening in 2020. I I I I can't stand with him on that. I can't say yes 100% because we're in the 11th hour and we still have no baseball, no plan in place, no way to do contract tracing. An unknown MLB player and an MLB coach just caught COVID-19 this week as well. So, I mean, that's a month away. And so the run of the course, it runs. And then after 2 weeks, it's generally gone. Like you quarantine for yourself for 2 weeks. So that would allow some time for those players to become, or that player and coach to become healthy again. But still, I mean, you, yeah, we're in the 11th hour and there's no deal done, and they have until Sunday to make a decision, do the MLBPA. Otherwise, that deal expires. So it's hard to say what's going to happen because, I mean, to be honest, I mean, the majority of the season is 100% full guaranteed salary, and then 22 of the 72 games is on the 80% prorated as long as there's a playoff, or 70% prorated without a playoffs. So they're getting the majority of their money. I understand they signed the contracts fully guaranteed. That's part of the deal, so that's fair that they're asking for that. But I wonder. I, to be honest, for the season to happen, I think the players have to take a cut. Whether or not they should, I think for the season to happen, they have to take the cut, Tanner. So we'll see what happens. Do they accept this deal? I don't know. They have like less than 24 hours to make a decision, but it's hard to say that we're going to have baseball based on the way it's going at the moment.
And Zach, that's kind of the unfortunate thing. As much as I want to say that 100% statement that Manfred made is going to happen, I'm like you, and we've talked about this from the first time that we've put it on the show. That it's just, as you said, the biggest thing is going to be the players are going to have to take some sort of cut. They're not going to get 100%, I think, unless a deal happens that we have no idea about. But hopefully, I really hope something happens, though, just because sports have slowly started coming back. This week we saw professional golf at its full swing, at least, after watching the match, with Phil, Tiger, Peyton, and Tom. So sports are slowly starting to come back. Obviously hockey is another big one, but I'm like you, just as much as I want to say that it's going in the right direction, it doesn't seem like it is. It seems like the numbers are dwindling, at least. Like it's going to, if it does happen, hopefully in that 70-ish game, roughly around the 70s. But I'm like you. I'm not sure. Hopefully they'll reach some type of agreement. Maybe this will be the one. Who knows? It could be tomorrow we find out that it happens. But yeah, I'm like you. I hope it works out, but we'll just have to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, to be like, but we're in the 11th hour, almost the 11th and a half hour. And if baseball doesn't start by July, baseball won't happen. I mean, even if it doesn't have to be the first week of July. I mean, the NBA is starting at the end of July, but baseball is slightly different. They're not playing indoors, so that affects things. I mean, they'll probably end up playing in the South, which means they can play longer because it doesn't get as cold and you can play into more months. But still, it'll be you can't play baseball for so long unless they play every game at Tropicana Field or something, which I don't think they want to do. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. They have to have a. I mean, if they don't have a deal here by the middle of next week, I think we can probably safely say, I don't want to say safely safe, but you could, I would say if we don't have a deal by the middle of next week, more likely than not, baseball won't happen.
And of course, something that we'll keep up to date with every single week and obviously through all our social media. So to keep an eye on that. College football passes a practice schedule as college football is looking to get closer and closer to returning as well. We'll talk about that up next here on Beyond the Stats.
Welcome back to Beyond the Stats. Tanner Camp. Alongside me, I'm Zachariah Begley. We're going to be talking about the NCAA releasing a schedule to get the offseason started for college football. So, Tanner, just to kind of roll what the schedule is. So the NCAA Football Oversight Committee passed a recommendation. So this is technically not official as their vote on June 17th. It's expected to pass, and they're calling it, but the bylaws and the rules and the way it works, they have to have this vote, but it's expected to pass. But so teams will be able to start working out again on July 13th. So that's when coaches can have access to their players, strength workouts, coaches engaging in film study, things like that. But, and then, so then those 8 weeks would transition, those 8-hour weeks would transition to a pair of 20-hour weeks on July 24th, which, is similar to, just moving into the regular season schedule where they can only do 20 hours a week. And then on August 7th, training camp can officially start for NCAA teams. So Tanner, just thinking about that, what are your thoughts based on this has been released? I mean, it's technically not official, but for all intents and purposes, it's what's going to happen.
And as you said, it may not be official, but it's definitely a step in the right direction for college football and maybe even the NCAA in general. I mean, I kind of like what the NBA's schedule, at least when it was first released. It's a good layout of getting players back safely, but also giving them time to get back into both practice and game shape. We've seen, you have to assume that a lot of players have been preparing, doing their own home workouts in terms of strength, conditioning, film study especially. But I really like this. As we said, it's expected that it's going to get passed when they vote next week. But I really like this. I like that they're giving around, looks like it's going to be a month. But then, of course, training camps on August 7th. So I really like this. I'm glad, again, assuming that it does get passed unless some weird circumstance were to happen. But I like the layout after getting a chance to read through everything. So, yeah, I think this is a great step for both college football, but the NCAA as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's a good ramp up. So they start July 14th, and then July 24th, there's the next change. And then August 7th is the start of training camp. And then you can get back into regular football. And they're also allowing enough space to make adjustments as things change. If numbers go back up for whatever reason, they can make adjustments because the season doesn't start till September and it's the first week of August. So if they need to push it back a week, there's enough time, things like that. Like the schedule was made in a way to allow for some flexibility, it seems like. And so it's like you said, it's a step in the right direction to get college football back, which would get college basketball back, which would get college baseball back, which would get college soccer back. Because college football is really the big sport for the NCAA. College football, basketball are the two big ones, really, I think. But yeah, I think if they can get college football back and show that they can do that safely, I think it leads to the fact of the other sports coming back so other athletes can play sports. And I think that's a good thing, not just for football, but for all NCAA Division I sports in general.
And, Zach, I was curious as to the direction for where training camps or practices were to go, because let's also remember that it was back on June 1st that when the NCAA, they did allow schools to have voluntary workouts. Of course, keyword voluntary, so that they didn't have to. So I was curious as to where this was going to go. Not too much time after they said that on June 1st, so roughly about 2 weeks after. So again, it seems like the NCAA has been thinking about this for a while now. And again, I think we can both agree that it's going in the right direction. And as to any updates, hopefully they'll let us know. But again, great direction to go with. And if there were any changes, I'm sure they'll let coaches, players, and everyone know right away. But again, big props to the NCAA for this schedule here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we're seeing a time map to getting college sports back. And I'm excited to watch college football this season, and then obviously college basketball and all the other college baseball, college soccer, all the college sports. I mean, can't go wrong college sports. When we come back, we'll be talking about the announcement of the Magic Johnson documentary. When we return here on Beyond the Stats.
Welcome back to Beyond the Stats alongside Zachariah Begley. I'm Tanner Camp. So, Zach, Irvin Magic Johnson, arguably one of the greatest players of all time, is going to be the subject of a new feature film documentary. And, of course, Irvin Magic Johnson, as I said, played for the Lakers and one of the best Lakers and one of the best players ever in the NBA. Of course, a Hall of Fame career, and helped save the NBA alongside Larry Bird and the Celtics with their rivalry. This is also all kind of coming off after Michael Jordan and The Last Dance, the 5-week documentary, 10-part documentary series that we also got a chance to cover after watching it. And then there were also some rumors going on about a Kobe Bryant documentary looking back on his last season with the Lakers in the 2015-2016 season. So potentially that, plus a Magic Johnson documentary, which we can confirm with that. So when you hear, kind of after watching The Last Dance, and then Magic Johnson getting his own series, or his documentary rather, what do you think the subject is going to be about, or what do you think it's going to really focus on for this documentary about Magic Johnson?
Well, Tanner, first things, they're definitely capitalizing on the hype coming from The Last Dance, and I don't blame them. Understandable. I'm all for these basketball documentaries, but it's clearly trying to capitalize on the hype, for one. Two, I'm really excited. It comes out in 2021, so we're still we're a year, probably a full year away. And who knows when that Kobe Bryant documentary is coming out, because there's really no even year set for that one. But Magic Johnson documentary coming out in 2021. The Tom Brady documentary we talked about before, that one's also coming out in 2021. So there'll be plenty of sports documentaries coming out in 2021. And I know ESPN has the 30 for 30 series, so they've been releasing sports documentaries for years. But I'm glad that these are coming out and we're getting, like, as was reported, unprecedented access to former players or current players in the case of Tom Brady, and just covering stories and getting to know, like, these people beyond what they do on the field, or beyond what little slice of life they've let us in on. Because I just want to know more, and I'll be right there with you, probably watching, and we're going to be covering this in like a year, so it's kind of interesting that we're talking about this a year before it comes out. But I'm excited, and I know you are too. So,
Absolutely. And I think one thing that I especially liked about the 10-part documentary series, The Last Dance, was that what seems like so simple of focusing on just the 97-98 season, it took 10 episodes to go beyond that and look at player profiles, how they got there, other subjects like, Dennis Rodman when he joined the team, Steve Kerr and how he got to the NBA, of course, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. But that's what I loved about that documentary series, the fact that it wasn't just focusing, okay, 97, 98 season, that's it. There were so many other components that helped make that all 10 episodes absolutely fantastic. So if this can do the same I'm like you. I'm excited to find out more about Magic Johnson. And hopefully, again, we'll find more about the Kobe Bryant documentary, but both of those getting more just beyond the player themselves and them as a person. So I'm like you. I'm super excited for it. And as soon as we find a release date, I'm marking it on my calendar and making sure that I am sitting and watching that documentary. Well, Zach, that's it. That's all that we have for you all today. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Beyond the Stats. Beyond the Stats is on most podcasting sites. So if you could leave us some feedback, we would appreciate that. Our goal is to deliver the best sports news to you through all our social media and, of course, through our actual YouTube, which is what we're on as well. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and do not forget to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our content.
This is Beyond the Stats with Zach